Hi, everyone. I'm a Raging Papist. Thanks for joining me. Today's my birthday, and I'm in my early 30s now, and I'm reflecting a little bit about how my life has changed, what I'm doing going forward, and what it means to be successful. Because if there's anything that I've learned now after 30 years, it's embracing masculinity and finding your own sort of personal happiness. And one of the things that I've learned is that you have to find the goals that you want in life, which is much harder than it sounds, right? Because we all have goals. What does that mean? It means being honest with yourself. Uh, because I spent most of my 20s just sort of stewing in mediocrity. And I know that a lot of us do, especially in the current year with our culture and way of life as it is. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to be infantilized and to just go along to get along, right? Putting one foot in front of the other just to, because you don't know any better, right? Um, and especially I kind of come from more of a sort of a, you know, upper middle class background, which afforded me a great deal of luxury. So getting an education for me was never in doubt. The problem with it was that I didn't know what to do because my needs were taken care of. If I had spiritual needs, I went to church. If I wanted to find a good job, well, the path is the path. You go to high school, you go to college, you go to a graduate school, and then you'll be successful. You know, the typical path that you go along. And I suppose because of that, I was aimless. Um, I didn't need to have any type of big goal. Uh, the only real effort I had to put was into my schooling and my grades. But even with that, I didn't try so hard because I had nothing to shoot for, right? I mean, it was predestined that I was going to go to college. It was predestined that I would be a professional of some kind. And so I would, I was never an A student. I'd get B's and C's and, you know, just going from one situation to the next until I hit my first real pushback in law school. And I realized that uh, if I'm going to continue my life, if I'm going to get ahead, I need to do better. You can't live a life of mediocrity. You can't live a life of just putting one foot in front of the other because time will pass you by. And that's something that I've learned now. It's do not waste your 20s. I wasted my 20s, and I'm asking you not to do the same. Millennial Woes touched on this topic either a year or two ago with a great video on not wasting your 20s. So this is in a similar vein to that. I would encourage you from a younger age to find your passion, and you have to be honest with yourself. If you want to make money, then that should be your goal, and you devote yourself to it. If you want to find spiritual sustenance, I kind of want to be a priest or a monk. You can't run away from it. You have to embrace it and try it. And when you start going down that path, grab a hold of it, and don't let anything get in your way about it. Because there's two things that I've found that held me back in my 20s. Getting a YouTube channel for myself was frankly, it was something I needed to do because I had to put my voice out there. I wanted to be a member of Gamergate. That's how this madness started. And then I politically became a reactionary, and then I became alt-right, and I want to defend the church. I want to do all of these things. And you can tell from that, well, what is your goal? Well, I have no goal right there. It's talking, you know. And so I finally sort of managed to find out what my goal in life is. I want to be a changer. I want to change society in some way, in some small way. And having people listen to me on YouTube, talking to people at school, going out with friends, these are all little ways of changing society. Going to law school for me, why am I going to law school? Well, I actually didn't really know why until recently. And it held me back because law school is a very alpha environment. Alpha females, alpha males, who they know what they want, and they will exert their will over their fellow classmates, over the institution, to get what they want to get ahead. And if you don't have a similar mindset, you will find yourself on the out. It's a very brutal reality. But two of my things that hold me back by my personality are I have a fear of success, and I have a fear of being seen to try. And those are two things that in my 20s I wish I was able to overcome. And now, what does that mean? Why would anyone have a fear of success? Well, as I've said, I had a very comfortable lifestyle. I didn't want to leave that. And it was very easy to infantilize myself. I'm not blaming my parents or anything like that. I'm saying if there's a reason I was a victim, it's because I did it to myself. I didn't want to be successful. I didn't want to be the best student or play the best sports. I didn't want to be the best guy on the team. And the reason for that was quite simple. Because the more successful you are, the higher your obligations and responsibilities. Getting more money theoretically in my life didn't override that. I was afraid of success. And only recently have I taught myself to not be afraid of success, because I want to be a changer. And I know just from my own professional life, I've started to become a lot more outgoing and put myself out there more in law school, to become a leader, to become an active member, not just a passive observer, but a member. So you can't be afraid of success. If you want it, if you want the good life, you have to pursue it, whatever that means for you. And if that's money, then be honest with it. I want to be a wheeler and dealer. I want to know what the deals are. I want to know how to make this money. Because you can't, even something like that, you can't just go and be like, well, I heard about a deal, and I'd like to invest in it, but frankly, I don't know if there's enough reward, so I'm going to hold back for now. Right? You are the one who limits yourself by a fear of success. You can't let that happen. Also, personally, I have a fear of being seen to try. And perfect story. A couple years ago, I was interning as a paralegal. Okay, and a paralegal, if you don't know, is just you're a glorified legal secretary. You write memos, you put together, complaints, legal documents off of police reports, things like that. You're just there to assist the attorney. It's nothing serious. Truly, it's nothing serious. And then the attorney signs off on it. Well, there was one time when I couldn't read the amount of money. There was a dollar value that the attorney was going to be charging the client. And I couldn't read it on the paper. However, I thought I knew what it was. I spent some time looking at it. I added up some of the numbers from the bills myself, and I said, okay, well, this seems accurate to me. So I wrote down the number, put it on the memo, gave it back to the attorney. A couple hours later, and he called me into the office and said, what did you do here? And my heart sank into my stomach, because I'm like, oh God, what did I do? And he showed me the bill, and he said, you're off by several $1,000s here. You overcharged the client like $2,000-3,000. Now, I'm glad that I caught this, but why didn't you ask me? If you can't read the number, why didn't you ask me? And it was very simple. I wanted to appear competent, because with my sort of beta personality, as who's trying to become an alpha, it's very simple. I don't want to be seen to try, because if people watch you trying to do something, that means you're not being successful at it. You know, I sort of expect that I have this talent, and I'm going to use this talent. If I'm at a job, I'm going to do the job. There's no learning how to do the job. There's no trial or tribulation doing the job. You got the job done. So I didn't want to ask for any help, even if it was something as stupid as I can't read your handwriting, right? And ultimately, both of those issues stem from confidence. Why am I afraid of success? Well, because I'll have to do more, and I'm not confident. Why don't I want to be seen to try? Well, because I want to appear confident. I want to appear totally in control, even though a person's never totally in control. You always need help, even if it's in an office, even if it's on a construction site, I imagine. I remember my first job was unloading an 18-wheeler truck at a Kohl's department store. And, I can't just go and start unloading the truck. I have to be told what to do. Here's what you do with the boxes. Here's how you slice them open. Here's the rail that you shove them down. When you take the clothes out of the box, where do you put them? Well, someone has to tell you that. So my 20s was spent in a mediocre go along to get along. And I'm 31 years old as of today. And I want to impart some wisdom with my viewers here, and to anyone who sees this video in the future, to not waste it. For instance, a lot of people dread asking out women, right? And I can relate to that, because I've only had one girlfriend in my entire life. And the thing that I fall back on, I've only asked out one woman, ever. And I got that one girl. And we dated for a long time, and it was really nice. Now, that shows you the success, fear of failure, fear of being seen to try mentality. It's almost been a crutch for me that I've been able to say, oh, I've dated. Yeah, I've had one girlfriend, one successful girlfriend that I asked out one time. And, guys, you got to get out there and embrace your masculinity. Not everyone's a leader, but not everyone's a follower. And you need to try to put yourself in a leadership role and just see what happens. If you don't make the cut, then you didn't make the cut. And that's okay, because what failure tells you is that it instructs you on how to move on. All right? You get a better feeling for yourself. That's why, if I had known going into law school what I wanted to do with it, yeah, I had this grand vision of, yeah, I want to help people, naturally. Oh, I love politics, right? You love to argue and all that other shit. That's all nonsense. I want to get a JD. I want to be an attorney so that I can change things. That's why I want to go into politics. And I love seeing positive change. I like seeing alt-right politics develop. I love smashing SJWs. I loved fighting in Gamergate. These things gave me purpose. I remember 2 or 3 years ago now, when Gamergate was going on, I lived for Twitter. I didn't have any time for anything else. I had to get on there. I had to see what people are talking about. I got onto Kotaku in Action, did all these things, spoke with Paulo Munoz a couple times. He had some good chats. I wanted to change things. And I wasn't even making any money for it. It's just what I want to do with my life. It gives me satisfaction. And now that I know I want to change things legally, I find myself able to invest myself in my schoolwork. It's not do the reading because your teacher told you to. It's not take this final exam that's worth 70% of your grade because you have to. It's I want to. This is now a bar for my passage. And of course, at the end of law school, you take the bar. But no one looks forward to getting an exam, that is 70% of your grade when so much is writing on it. But if you can look at that exam and say, I earned this exam. This is the fruit of all my hard work throughout the semester. The grade that I get, I took this. And also in law school, you are on a competitive basis, right? Which means that only several people are allowed to get A's. Several people are allowed to get B's. Several people are allowed to get C's. And some people have to get D's and F's. If you just got the lowest amount of points, doesn't matter if you did well on all the assignments, you get the fail. That's how law school is. It is a gut-wrenching, competitive environment. You can't go there and just think to yourself, well, I'll get by. One of the toughest things for me is to see, I remember my 1L year watching the people fail out. And it was brutal because you could see that, and I wasn't much better. I didn't fail out, but I wasn't much better. It's the whole, this is college 2.0. I'm going to law school because, my grandma said I love to argue, and those are all fine things, but that's not enough. You have to know what you want. So, I would encourage you to find and measure success by the thing that you want to do. What am I going to do with my JD? I don't even know at this point. I don't enjoy hard litigation, but I can tell you, because I love pursuing change, God, I want to do politics. I want to be the Steve Bannon to a Trump. I don't want to be the guy on top, but man, I want to help him get there. And I do want a little credit for what I do. And embrace that. Don't be afraid of success, and don't be afraid of being seen to try. So that's it for me today. Just wanted to give you guys a little, a little self-improvement tip, because we have one life to live, and I'm 31, and now that I know what I want more in my life, things are opening up, and I can see the ways in which I can improve myself, and I can move forward. And I hope that you guys can find that too. So, thanks for joining me. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.